Hi everyone and welcome to another painting tutorial. So today I'm going to take you through a wooden theme for one of my Celestar Ballistas from my Stormcast Eternals Army. So over a Wraithbone undercoat, I'm simply going to apply Wildwood Contrast just straight from the pot and just make sure that I move the paint around, as you can see, and just apply that over the entire ballista. So as you can see, on its own, Wildwood Contrast gives a pretty amazing effect. However, we're going to build on that. So after having given that approximately half an hour to dry, I'm going to begin by painting some of the additional wood grain effects onto the ballista. So I decided to start with Doomball Brown. And as you'll see throughout the duration of this tutorial, there are some parts that I do just leave alone, with the Wildwood Contrast having already given some of the effect I was after. And now I'm going to be moving on to Scrag Brown. So as you can see, for the crank of the weapon, as an example, I'm just going to begin highlighting that. And you'll see throughout this tutorial as well that I do tend to jump between the colours a little bit and also mix them from time to time. You can just really be experimental with this and just enjoy it as much as you want. And as you can see, just moving on to Zamisi Desert now. And I'm just going to begin highlighting these parts of the legs of the ballista. So as you can see, a pretty vibrant difference compared to the other tones that I've been using. And as you can see here, just picking out some subtle wooden grain effects. So I recommend using a fine detail brush for this. So for example, I'm using my Raphael 8404 size 1 for this. And it just adds a whole extra level of effect for this theme in particular. So as you can see here, just mostly doing some edge highlighting. And as I mentioned before, as I have mentioned in previous videos, I believe, at least once before, Wildwood Contrast is up there, probably my favourite contrast paint. It just gives you such a fantastic foundation to work with, especially with things like this, or if you're working on Sylvaneth, for example. And as you can see, just gradually building up those browns, and letting the Wildwood Contrast do a lot of the work for me as well. So as you can see, these small little fine lines of highlight can certainly add a very cool grainy wood grain sort of effect. And I highly recommend giving this a go on your next ballista, as it is just so much fun to paint. And if you were to add some gold to it, for example, that could look really cool. And yeah, there's just so many cool things you can do with this effect added. So as you can see, just gradually building up the symbols and the parchment at the front with some AC Desert, and eventually going to be adding some Screaming Skull to that as well. So closing in on the final parts of the highlights for the parchment and for the symbols at the front here of the ballista. So as you can see, I've just mixed a little bit of Screaming Skull with Zemesi Desert, and as I mentioned earlier, just going to eventually build that up to Screaming Skull. So as you can see, I decided to tone down the parchment a little bit. So I decided to go back and correct that, and if you find yourself in the same position, just know that you can absolutely go back and get it to a point of which you're happy with. And I decided I wanted the barrels of the gun to stand out just that little bit more. So just doing a final touch little highlight there of Zamesi Desert. And you can do as little or as many of the wood grain highlights as you like, going up as bright as Screaming Skull, or even white. And here are some photos of the completed ballista. So I hope you found this tutorial useful today. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you all had a fantastic Christmas, and I will see you again in the next one.